Kilmoski River Railroad. Why they didn't do cheap?
this. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to rumble?
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Big Bill here. July 22nd, July 22nd already. Man, yeah. Time is flying when we're having fun, but here it is, July 22nd, 2020, Wednesday evening. Listening to Model Railroading Live, the greatest #1 modeling show in the and broadcasting from the greatest city in the world, Staten Island, New York, New York City. Welcome to the show tonight. We have a special guest with us tonight. We'll see him on the screen. We're going to get to him in one moment, but as always, we have to do our homework. So to keep you guys updated out there in the model railroading community. What was one of the things? I have to apologize again. We were in touch. John was on the phone all afternoon with NASA down in the Space Center. We were trying to hook up a link to the space shuttle, the space station, to get that darn golly N-scale engine with the decoder put in negative gravity. But I think he kept getting the cafeteria, and then he got the janitor, but he couldn't get the guy in the head office. So we're going to have to wait on that. I know you guys were looking forward to that, or what information we had. But other than that, we couldn't get it. Want to welcome everybody who's tuning in now. Also, have a special announcement to make. Our good friend Heath from Union City Junction put a video out the other day. And in that video, it's kind of a projection, kind of a futuristic thing going on with him. He has about 300 and plus subscribers. So he's projecting that when he hits the 500 subscriber mark, at 501, 503, he's going to hold a contest. So you need to get your friends out there and subscribe to him so that I can win the contest. Okay? That's the deal we made, right? He's listening or something. Anyway, he's going to hold the contest. He's going to have a HO scale boxcar with the I Love New York. You have to go to his video and find out. Just look it up. And he's going to have an N scale boxcar, I Love New York. And you should check out his content. Human City Junction has very good content. He's a modular modeler, and he does some great electronic stuff, and he does some great reviews. So go check. It's Human City Junction, where the city meets the. Help me here. Human City Junction. He'll comment. Hello, all. John Arthur is here. So that's what he's going to do. So go check his channel out. The second thing is on this Saturday, Railroad Umpires, How We Build Them, will be coming up, and they'll be doing, what are we going to be doing? I had it written. Ground cover. I had it written down. I knew. It's with the Fab Four. This Saturday, July 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, please forgive me. At Railroad Empires, How We Build Them, we're doing ground cover this show with the Fab Four, Robert, Tim, Lloyd, and Andy. They'll be on. Tune in for them and check that show. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then it's going to be on ground cover. So far, I think this is episode 7 or 8. I've been kind of catching. I haven't been catching them live. I've been catching them on the broadcast, and they're pretty interesting. And you guys should come up with more questions because I think this is beneficial for you as well as it is for them. I know they're enjoying themselves, and I hope you guys are enjoying watching it. And then on the 30th, July 30th, that's a Thursday night, Johnny's Train Talk Show will be back on air. He'll be back that Thursday. That'll be the last show of July. And that's where you guys can come in. You know the story, just like we are right here, right now. You can come in if you have a webcam, internet. You can be on, brag. If you have any questions, we have a live Q&A. You can do that. We'll come on, mosey on down to the general store where John is hanging out. pull up a chair, pull a soda pop out of the cooler, and join the conversation. That's July 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did I cover everything? Space Station, Heath. I think I did. Yeah. So without further ado, it's our great privilege and it's our honor. We have a special guest on. I mentioned this on one of the after show hangouts, and everybody on they have that. We have Tom Klamosky. Am I saying that right, Tom?
Klamosky. Yeah.
Klamosky. Thomas Klamosky. Thomas is the has a website, and he also has a railroad called the Georgia Northeastern Railroad. He the circles of model railroading, he seems to be well known. Everybody's always asking for him, and says, "Yeah, I know him." Especially on the After Hours show, I was saying they asked who the guest was, and I told them that was you, Tom, and they were like, "Oh, I can't wait for this guy to be on. I can't wait for this guy." So, welcome. Thank you for being on our show.
Right. Well, thank you. I'm honored to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It was watched some of your videos and your website and saw what you did, and that was like, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Thomas. How is it that you, living in North Georgia, had come to model railroading?
Well, start way back when I was a young kid. I got the Lionel train set like everybody else got, and set it up on the floor in my bedroom, and then that wasn't good enough, so I brought the ping pong tables in and set them up in the bedroom, which means if you put ping pong tables in a regular sized bedroom, that doesn't leave much room for the bed. So the bed was under the layout, and I had the layout there and did that, and then my parents were very understanding and grew up in Miami, so no basements, so that makes it a little tough. We had a back screened-in porch, and they allowed me to put a layout on the back porch, which is not the best place for a layout in Miami with the heat, humidity, and rain, and wind, and all the other stuff. But it was Lionel, and it held up. And so I had 2 4x8 sheets of plywood, bolted them together into an L shape, and made a layout there, and started learning how to be a model railroader. Actually custom painted a couple of locomotives and stuff, and this was as I was a teenager and stuff. And then, like most people, the trains went away, and I got busy with work and starting a family and all that other stuff. And then at about 1999, I started getting back into the hobby. My oldest son was getting to the age where he was big enough to be able to play with model trains, so I set up a 4x8 layout and garage, and it went from there, and he enjoyed it, but it was Dad's trains. I that was the time that DCC just started, and sound decoders and all that other stuff, and that really got me going into the hobby. Then I joined a local club in Miami. It was a modular club, and we'd set up for a big weekend. It was the weekend before Thanksgiving. We'd set up and put all of our modules together, and it was a huge layout, and we got to run trains. And then through that, I met some other people and got invited to operating sessions. I operated on one gentleman's layout who modeled the Florida East Coast in the 1930s, just before the hurricane wiped out the train down to Key West. So we'd run trains from Miami down over the 7 Mile Bridge into Key West, and there was a ferry there that took the cars to Cuba, and he had the ferry, he'd load the ferry, and I mean, it was a beautiful layout. And then I started working on my layout, which was a freelance layout. It represented North Carolina. It was a CSX, and I called it the Hawks Ridge Division, and it just kept growing and growing, and I ended up having that layout featured in a special issue of Model Railroader magazine called More Layout and Less Space. And that was in 2010. And the title, Andy Sporandio back then came up with the title. He called it One Layout, One Mustang. And the reason behind that was because it was in my garage, and I had it so that I could remove parts of the layout and park the car inside. And then the car, that was my wife's car, it was a convertible Mustang. So if you look at the track plan in the issue, there's a car in the middle of the layout track plan, which is a ghost image of the Mustang. which is pretty cool. And I had a removable center peninsula, and I had a removable section or removable sections that went across the garage door. And two of those were my modules for the Model Railroad Club that I belong to. It's called Echoes Model Railroad Club, which is out of Miami. They're still there, still active. And so I made some connecting modules, and that connected up, and I had a decent sized layout in my garage. It was basically 18 by 18 garage. But again, the compromise was it was a garage in Miami and not really air conditioned, not really climate controlled. I mean, I tried. I did operating sessions, and we do them in the evening, and we tried to do it during the winter time, June, July, and August. It's just too hot, to try to do operating sessions in Miami.
Yeah.
Into operations, and then I was a firefighter for the City of Miami Fire Rescue. I worked for them for almost 30 years, and when I retired, I wanted to move out of Miami. We were looking for a little slower pace of life and a little more country. And so we ended up moving up here to the mountains of Northeast Georgia. I'm about 2 hours north of Atlanta. Also about 2 hours to Chattanooga and about 2 hours over to Asheville. So if you kind of triangulate that, we're up in the mountains. We're right off there. Part of the Appalachian Trail goes through the edge of our county. And we're at about a 2,000 foot elevation. There's the highest peak in Georgia is just short of 5,000 feet. And that's just a couple of miles from our house. So we've got a very nice mountain area here with lakes. I mean, beautiful area. People are nice. I mean, it's a lot slower pace, a lot less traffic, a lot less, aggravation and stuff. So when I moved up here, when I moved from Miami, I tore the layout down, boxed up what I could, donated the modules to the train club, and then started looking for something to build up here. And a couple of things came up when I was looking at what I wanted to do and how I wanted to design it and stuff. I realized I'm up in the mountains, so I wasn't going to get probably 10 or 12 people here to do an operating session. So I said, again, why am I going to build a layout that requires a large number of operators if I'm going to struggle to get people to, come here? And I really didn't need something that big. As time went on, I started liking switching operations more and more. I'm more of a switch guy. I like working the yards. I like working the local switch job. I'm not a mainline engineer railroader. I mean, some people like that. That's great. Give them a train and a long distance, run, and they're happy. I again more like the switching operations and stuff. With the club layout we had in Miami, we would just run trains in a circle for hours and hours and hours, and that got old really quick, at least for me. So I started looking at, well, how big of a room did I need? How much layout did I really need to be entertaining, and how long of an operating session did I want? So I started looking into that, started trying to do some time studies, see how long it takes to do some switching operations. And we had at the time we had an unfinished basement, and we did some framing and stuff, and I set up a small room, which, if you're not familiar with my layout, it's in a 9'2" by 10'6" room. So we're less than 100 square feet in this room. And I figured a way to, see if there was a way to, set up a track plan that was going to work. So I, started figuring out what I needed for, depth of bench work, how much room I needed for aisles and stuff. And I came up with some standards. And if it was a switching layout, I figured I could get by with 24-inch radius curves and number 6 turnouts and be able to just, make it work and kind of squeeze it in a little bit. But I didn't think I needed that much layout to keep me interested. Well, as it turns out, with my layout, I can have about a 2.5 to 3 hour operating session just working 3 different switch jobs. And again, that's not too bad in a 9'2" by 10'6" room. I had a couple of guys come over, and they had seen my layout, and they looked at the stats, and I think there's something along the lines of 40 feet of main line, if you will. And so the guy figured they'd come in, they'd watch the trains go around in the circle for about 10 minutes, and then they'd leave. And I said, no, we're going to do an operating session, and we're going to start switching some cars, and we're going to work the one job, which I call the North Local, which is what the Georgia Northeastern calls it, and working just the industries in Marietta, which is about a third of the layout.
Tom, do you have can you share a screenshot of your layout?
Sure. Let me see if I can do a share here. Share my screen.
Do I have everything turned off? Yeah, everything's turned off.
All right. Let's see. Can you guys see the track plan there?
Yeah, just before you get into that, just let me answer some of the things that we getting. Day, where are we? Do you still have the feedback, John? No. Let's see. I had a couple of days. Where is that? Hello to everybody in here that joined in. Let's see. Oh, Dave BNSN FM. Yeah, why does everyone who lives in New York City think they are at the center of the universe? A good question. But we liked it so much, Dave, that we named it twice. New York, New York. I don't know why we do that. I guess because it's the major hub of everything that goes on in the world. Arts, sports, everything like that. So, but Brad LeBret, where is the external noise coming from? Very irritating. I think we corrected it, Brad. I hope we did. John Arthur does. John Arthur wants to know: does Model Railroad do those plans for you when they publish? Did Model Railroad do the plans that you're now showing for you?
Yes. Yes. These are copyright by Comback Media. I have permission to use them because I designed it. So yes. When I wrote the article, this track plan here appeared in Great Model Railroads 2020. So this was the latest revision. My railroad originally appeared in the 2016 issue of Model Railroad Planning.
Hold on. Tom, do you have your phone on?
No. Yes. I don't know. Should be. Yeah. Should be.
Dave Ralph says hello to all. Are you still hearing the feedback, Ralph? Okay. All right. So, Tom, this is your layout.
Yes. Yeah, this is the track plan.
Georgia Northeastern.
Yeah, the Georgia Northeastern. And it starts off with a staging cassette. I don't know if you can see the cursor here, but there's a staging cassette which is in the adjacent room, which is my wife's craft room. And it's removable, and it's 8 by 5'6", 8 inches by 5'6". So it allows me to stage about 10 to 12 cars, depending on the length of the cars. So we start off in staging, and then the train comes out and works the industries all the way up here. This is Dow Chemical up here at the very top. So if you look at, there's just a handful of industries. You have Dow Chemical, Capital Building Materials, ERB Plastics, which is located on the head end of the siding just before Capital. You have Georgia Metal Coaters. You have a removable industry, which is Universal Alloy. And then over here, you have a Team Track ramp and then an Argos cement plant. So just working those few industries takes about an hour. Again, nothing complicated. It's very simple, very straightforward track plan. There's no gotchas. There's no complex moves or anything like that. You have a runaround track, which is located over here on this side in Marietta. So typically what the local will do is they'll come out of staging, they'll come up and they'll work the trailing point industries first, which in this case would be Georgia Metal Coaters. Then all the other, if they're working Universal Alloy, then they might work that one. And then if Universal Alloy is not scheduled to be switched, again, that prototype industry only gets switched maybe once a week. So I don't put it in for every operating session because, again, it goes across the doorway. So most of the time it's not in, it's not on the layout. I only install it when we are operating. So
Okay.
then the crews come up and they come up to Dow Chemical. They'll leave some of their cars here in in Marietta. They'll come up and they'll work Dow Chemical. And then what they'll do is then they'll shove back across the grade crossing here, come back into town, and then you'll use the runaround track. And now what was a facing point or all trailing point moves now. So then you'll switch the cars into ERB, Capital Materials, the team track, and Argos Cement. And some of those will be have to be respotted, like a car at ERB. There may be a covered hopper there that's unloading plastic pellets, and you need to spot a car or pull a car and spot a car at Capital Building Materials. So you'll have to pull that car, then pull the car from Capital Materials, spot the car, and then respot the covered hopper, and that just adds a little more work to the switch job. But again,
Tom?
just doing, yes.
Don Dale Baker wants to know, what program do you use to create your switch lists?
The switch lists are based on the Georgia Northeastern prototype list, and I just make them up on an Excel spreadsheet. If you go onto my website at www.thomasklamosky.com, you can go on there, and I have copies of the switch list, and you can actually download it. They're downloadable copies. One's a PDF, and then one's actually a downloadable document. And you can see the switch list. Basically, all I do is I just overtype the information. What I want to do is I want to be able to control the car numbers and which cars get pulled and spotted, rather than using a computer program to do that, because I've got a limited space here on this runaround track. If there's too many cars, it makes it a little more complicated for the crew, and it can be a little bit aggravating. And again, I try to shoot for a medium to easy difficulty when they're doing the switching. So
How many, when you have an operation, how many, yourself included, how many other persons can you have in the room with you?
I like to work a two-person crew. So typically what I'll do is I'll have two guests come over. One will be the engineer. The other one will operate as the conductor. I use the proto throttle. So the engineer operates the proto throttle and the conductor gets the switch list, and you use prototype communication. You tell the engineer, pull ahead 2 cars. Okay, that'll do. Switch line, come on back 3 cars to a coupling, and you just keep talking through it. We don't need to use radios because we're only standing a couple of feet from each other. But we use, prototypical communication. There's a couple of videos that I've done. There's one with my buddy Tim Garland, who's a Norfolk Southern engineer, and that was a little tough because I was trying to run the camera and be the engineer, and Tim was the conductor. But it did work out. You can see that on one of my videos there. But I typically like to have a 2-person crew, and then I'll just be the dispatcher or troubleshooter, or there to answer questions if somebody has a question.
Now, your rolling stock, or I should say your power, locomotive power, are excuse me, are all diesel operated, right? Now this layout, it's based in present day modern era?
Yes, basically I'm modeling 2013, but the power is old Jeeps from the 1950s and 60s. And they're still operating. And the locomotives that I have are based on the prototypes. If you pull up the Georgia Northeastern roster, you'll see a 9706, a 6576. The locomotives that I have, there was originally, when I started the layout, I had a couple of locomotives that I didn't number properly, and those have gone away, and now they're properly numbered. So I've got one more that I've got to do, but I'm getting there. And all the locomotives were custom painted. I did all the custom painting. There's a set of decals that was offered by Microscale for the Georgia Northeastern, long since out of production, but I'm able to find them on eBay or through friends or whatever. And I've had just enough decals to be able to do my fleet. And so everything, and then all the locomotives have all been upgraded with ESU lock sound decoders, because again, I like consistency within the fleet, especially with the proto throttle. And again, that's just my preferred decoder. A lot of guys were going with the lock sound when they started with the proto throttle, so that's what I stuck with. So if it came with a lock sound decoder, great. If it didn't, then whatever was in there got taken out, and I upgraded it to whatever decoder I needed. The micros for the small switcher, or the standard one that goes in for the other locomotives.
Michael Lambertino wants to know. Yes, it is an HO scale layout.
Yes, that's correct.
It's a 9 foot by 10 foot. It's less than 100 square feet. Michael Lambertino would like to know, what code track do you use and what kind of road bed?
Micro Engineering Code 70 track and number 6 switches. They're all number 6s, and it's all Code 70. I make it look, the sidings look like they're smaller gauge because I lay them directly on the layout base, and then I put ballast over the ties and put weeds on them and that kind of stuff. But all the track is Code 70. It's just the main line is done on the standard HO cork. And then once it comes off the main line, it transitions down to sheet cork, where there's a little bit of a ramp. I built a ramp as it drops down onto the sidings. And then the yards are on sheet cork. And then especially like the Georgia Marble area, which is Marble Hill, most of that track is laid directly right on the layout base. The layout base is a 2-inch extruded foam. And then I have 1x4 or 1x6 framing. I say that because the 1x6 framing I use for the peninsula, because it's about 6.5, 7 feet long, and there's only legs on one end, and the other end attaches to the wall. So I didn't want to have to deal with any sagging, so I went with 1x6 for the peninsula.
Sparky 107 wants to know, you have Code 70. Did you have to change many of the wheels on your rolling stock?
No, it's the Code 70 seems to work. You have to be really careful with ballasting though, because any little ballast up on top of the ties, you will get the thump, thump, thump from the wheels. I will eventually go to semi-scale wheels. I've got some of it. Some of the cars have it. Several cars, or a lot of the cars don't. They all have metal wheels, but eventually I'd like to get to the little more scale profile wheels. Again, that's a project that's been on the books for a long time. But get the layout operational. I still got a lot of weathering to do. I mean, my layout's done, but it's never really done. I've got a structure lighting project, which I'm going to be working on. I've got a lot of weathering for the cars. I've got a lot of other detailing, and I want to go back over and add kind of another final layer of details to the layout. Weather the track maybe a little bit more, that kind of stuff. There's still plenty.
And since you're doing you've been using the proto throttle.
That's correct.
And how have you enjoyed using the proto throttle?
Oh, I love the proto throttle. It's great. I mean, for a guy like me that likes operations, it's the best thing. I mean, I put it right up there with sound and DCC. I mean, when you put all those proto throttle, sound, DCC all together, I mean, you've got a perfect marriage, as they say. It works really, really well.
Now, in your layout, in your Georgia Northeastern Railroad here, you really are a prototypical operational guy. I mean, because you also have the gates that you turn by.
That's correct.
Stuff like that, but you're really into the prototypical operation of
yes.
Weight and time. Is that something that you just wanted to do, or is that something that you've come to? I mean, you were a firefighter for Miami, so you never had to operate on a train,
That's correct. Yeah, when I moved up here to Georgia, I went to work for the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway it started off as a car host, and then worked my way up into the position they call trainman, which is basically like a conductor. I mean, we would do the brake test, we do everything that was with coupling cars, moving cars. So
to interrupt you, Tom, I'm just saying. Oh, you did have a relationship with working on the trains at one point in your life.
That's correct. Yeah, that's where I really started getting into the prototype operations. Is I got to work with the crews. I talked to the engineers.
And then we have our first technical difficulty. I think you might have to refresh, Tom, if you can hear me. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Tom, if you can hear me, you might have to refresh, go away and come back. Let in. I'll let him in. I think I'll let him in. I let him in. Yeah, isn't that right, Sparky? It always this is when the perfect face is being made. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely correct, the mundo. Ralph Renzetti, it's great to have friends like Scott Thornton. You're absolutely correct, my friend. Yeah. Do you think we should go out and come back? Is this Tom? Tom, can you hear us? JFD Rail, broken knuckle. You got that right. BO that car. BO that car. Okay. Tom, can you hear us? Tom? Yeah. Yeah.
You got me here?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Johnny, you there?
All right, hold on. I have to get my phone.
You need me to call Bill?
Yeah, call me. Tell him to call me. I don't know if he can. Hey, Jay. Hold on, guys.
Well, as everyone can see, we are having a slight malfunction here. Bill has got to get his phone so he can call Tom and see if we can work this one out, because evidently when he locked up, he's lost his speakers. So we'll see what we can get going here real quick. In the meantime, y'all just hum along to yourselves. Some of you talking about singing.
Well, as we used to say in the subway when we used to get stuck between stations, if you got them, throw them. Yeah, here he is. Hello, Tom. Yeah, we can see you, but you can't hear us. Can you see us?
Tell him check his speaker setting.
Okay. John, what do you want him to do?
Check his speaker settings, see if he still got the right speaker set up.
Okay. Check your speaker settings.
He may have to go out and refresh the browser again and come back in, because the screen share is working. He needs to turn screen share off. Tell him to log in on Chrome. He's on Firefox.
Can you log in on Chrome?
It's a Chrome-based
Right.
software.
Okay. The gentleman is going to leave. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. He's leaving to come back. It seems that he's operating on Firefox, not Chrome, so he's going to try to come back in Chrome. In the meantime, let me give you a heads up here. Human City Junction, that's our good friend Heath and his YouTube channel. He has 300 plus subscribers. He's shooting for 500, 501, 502, 503. At that point, he's going to hold a contest when he hits 500 subscribers. So he'd like, if you guys want to subscribe to him or haven't already, please do. He's got good content, good stuff. He's a modular modeler and stuff. I'm just looking at Adrian Gaston's reply. That was a flip phone. Yes, it was. 1982 is calling me. Yes, their phone back. Yep. So Thomas Kilmoski is coming back, hopefully. Thomas?
Yes.
There you go. What happened? You went for a beer run?
Yeah.
Man, did you get enough for everybody?
Yeah. I got a whole kit. You just got to come to the Georgia mountains.
That's all right. We'll come.
I guess it didn't pay my cable bill in nickels, so maybe they cut me off or something. Oh, well, I'm still on Firefox, so hopefully we won't lose that again. I'll have to figure out.
All right. In the meantime, just hold that thought for a second. Everybody know where Scott is? Scott's right here. You have been missing him. We haven't seen him at the Nearly Historical Railroad. So Scott is here, and he's listening. He helped fix this whole thing that we just had. So thank you. Appreciate it. See you later. Okay. There you go. That's our good friend Scott from Nearly Historical Railroad up there in the smallest city in the world. Yes, honey? Yes, honey. Thank you. That was my lovely bride of 47 years. Yeah. Actually, I know my wife over 48, but she's taken time off for good behavior. So
right.
She served enough for that. Anyway, where were we, Tom? We were talking about prototypical operations.
Right. I was telling you that I worked for the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway as a trainman. Yes. And the part of the job, which a lot of people didn't really care for that much, was we had what we called we called it a political run. It was also the potty dump run, whatever you want to call it. So the toilets on the passenger cars had to be dumped on a regular basis. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to pull the train up through a crossing, and there was a special spot where we could connect up to a sewer, hose, and we'd have to pull each car up, and we'd have to spot it and hook the hose up to it and dump it. If you're familiar with like an RV setup, it was very similar to dumping an RV setup. But that way there, I got used to calling out car counts and, come ahead, 2 cars, half a car, 10 feet, 5, that'll do. And we had to spot them up just right. There was one situation where you could actually dump 2 cars at the same time, but you had to have it spotted within about a foot because you had the connection on each car. So you had to get it just right. So and again, the engineer didn't want to have to, pull up, no back up, pull up that, he wanted to
right.
spot on the first one. So you had to get good at doing car counts. And the more I learned about, railroading, the more I was able to apply it to model railroading. So that's why this layout is, we'll say, proto-freelance. It's based on the prototype Georgia Northeastern. The industries are based on the prototype, but they're not exact copies. They're replicas. They look sort of like it, but they're not window for window, detail for detail, exactly what you see there. Plus, I had to move some of the industries around to get them to fit onto the layout. Some of the ones like ERB is actually further north from Marietta. I moved it down and put it next to Capitol Building Materials. And some of the other things got moved around a little bit as I was designing it. but basically I focused on 3 areas, which was Marietta, which is the switching area, which is where the CSX interchanges with the Georgia Northeastern, and that's where they have their office and stuff. Then you go on up the line and there's a few industries, and there was one really large industry, which is a grain industry, which is with Pilgrim's Pride, and they take 30-car cuts of, covered hoppers full of grain and stuff. Well, that was just way too big to put on this layout, so I just cut it out. It's one of those hard decisions that you have to make when you're designing a layout. It would have overwhelmed the rest of the layout. So then I looked at the other place that I really liked was the yard in the engine service facility here in Tate, which is over here over my shoulder. A neat little yard. It's got a great little engine service facility, and as a model railroader, you got to have locomotives. So I needed a place to put them, and I didn't want to store them in a box or off the layout. So modeling the locomotive service facility was perfect, and this is pretty close to prototype. It's set up similar. The way the sand tower was scratch built was based on the prototype. The way the fuel service area is and all that other stuff is pretty much set up the same way. The only difference is my facility faces north, the prototype faces south. There's a few things that I had to flip around to get them to fit and stuff. And then the next area that I wanted to model was called Marble Hill, which is where the marble industries are. There's 2 good-sized marble industries there now. One was called Georgia Marble. It's now called Polycor, and then they change the name every other month or 2, whatever. Another company comes in and takes it over, but the operation is still the same. And then there's another one which is called Emery's now. Emery ships out calcium carbonate, which is marble dust, which they mine from the mountain there, and they ship it out in pressure rate hoppers. Plus, they used to ship out box cars. They would bag it up and ship it out in box cars. And they also had slurry, and they'd ship that out in tank cars. So I model a little bit of that. I'm pushing the time frame a little bit, but it did at one point ship with those. And then the other quarry, which is Georgia Marble, cuts large blocks of marble out of their quarry and ships them in gondolas or flat cars and stuff. And the interesting thing I found out is a lot of the monuments in Washington, D.C., and a lot of the stones, headstones for the cemetery there in Washington, D.C., in the National Cemetery, came from the Georgia Marble Quarry, and they're very proud of that. And they did all the headstones and did all the carving on them and shipped those all over there. And then the other thing they ship from there is marble chips, which like you get in the garden department, in the bags. Well, they load up hopper cars full of those. And it's a really neat operation. The interesting part is I got to ride with the crew because, again, I was sort of an employee of the Georgia Northeastern. I asked the boss, and he asked the main boss. It was a family-run railroad at the time, so it was easy to talk to people. And I got permission to ride with the switch crew as they switched out Georgia Marble. And if you go onto my website, you'll see some prototype photos of the switchback. There's a switchback that goes from Tate down to Marble Hill, and it's like riding a roller coaster. It's like 5% or something grade, and the track is horrible, and there's discarded marble chunks all over the place, and they go down, they bump up against the rock at one end, they throw the switch, they run back the other way, they hit the rock at the other end, they move forward, and the track, like I said, and they can only get about 3 to 4 cars plus the engine on each tail of the switchback. And I don't know how much, how quickly it rises, but I'm going to say it's a good couple hundred feet. I mean, I have a picture where I'm on the upper part and you can see the lower part of the switchback, and it's like straight down. I mean, it's a really neat operation. Real slow speed. That's the other thing with the Georgia Northeastern. Maximum track speed is 15 miles an hour. That's max. Yeah. And most places are 10, and some places maybe even 5. The Marble Hill area is probably about 5. I mean, it's horrible track. So that's what I try to model is, I try to cover it up a little bit with the ballast. And if I really wanted to replicate it right, I would have had to take a hammer to it and just beat it to death, and then nothing would have run. But it would have looked very prototypical.
Yeah. I am our old Tom. Eric Paul says marble chips are a little hard on the teeth. Yeah, but you're not supposed to put them in your drink.
Yeah. Yeah, no. These are stones, chips, stones. Yeah.
But you really, what amazes me is that you're really into the prototypical operation, and not to say that anybody else is not doing it correctly or incorrectly. That's not what we're saying here. But I like the idea that you're adhering to a prototypical operation because it's giving interest to what you're modeling, and it's giving it life, and stuff like that. And how long does a typical operation session last for?
Right. Well, that's one of the nice things about having a small model railroad is I can adjust the operating session time to however long the guests have to come up here. I mean, typically what I like to do is I start my operating sessions at noon, and that doesn't mean we start. What I do is have the guys come here, and I make lunch because, again, we're in a small town, so it's kind of hard to go out and get lunch. So I'll have lunch prepared. We'll sit down, we'll talk, kind of get to know each other, whatever, because a lot of people have only met through the internet, just acquaintances and stuff, and people will request, coming up. So I'll have them there at lunch. We'll talk, and that way they would kind of get to know each other, and then we'll come over here and we'll do the operating session. Typically, I'll run the Marietta local, which is the North local, and that takes about an hour. And then if they need to go, if they need to, because it's a couple-hour drive maybe for most people to visit here, they need to leave, that's fine. If they have time to stay, then we'll run the next train, which is a train that starts out here in Tate. And we'll call it a transfer run. Basically, they take the cars from Tate down to interchange with the CSX in Marietta, and then they run back with the empties and drop them off here in the yard. And what they do is they store the cars in the yard here until they're needed down in Tate. And basically what they do is that's just kind of a holding yard, or whatever you want to say. So they'll hold the cars there, they'll deliver them to the industries, they'll pick up the loads, they'll put them back in the yard, they'll hold them there for a day or so until they got enough cars to make a good train and run down to Marietta and do the interchange. I mean, they don't want to sit them there too long. One of the neat things with the short line was that when I was there working with the crew, we went down, we switched the industries in Marble Hill, we came back up, we were back in Tate, doing some locomotive service and that kind of stuff. They get a phone call, they got a car that's ready down at Emery's, so they send the engine down there to pick it up. Well, the car was ready because we saw it when we were down there switching the cars, but they went down there, picked up the car, took it back. I don't think that happens on a Class 1. I don't see somebody picking up the phone, hey Bill, I got a car, can you come and get it? Oh yeah, we'll be right there. And then boom, there, here comes the engine, picks up the car, takes it up to the yard,
I wouldn't be surprised if it not that it didn't. I'd be surprised that it did, because it cuts out all the middlemen.
Yeah, that was the neat thing. That's why I liked, modeling a short line. I mean, that's, it's a neat operation, and again, I still have some friends that work on the railroad, so I got, a little bit of information. I can talk to some of the guys that work the line. And again, it's really neat. So, for me, the short line was the way to go. The disadvantages, you can't buy anything off the shelf that's labeled, for the Georgia Northeastern. It doesn't exist. So everything I need to do has to be custom painted, custom decaled, that kind of stuff.
Well, that adds just to the excitement and the modeling aspect of it, like that. So, Randall Ellis wants to say that the West Plains Model Railroading Club announced that they will have a new O-scale layout this year. And where is the West Plains Model Railroading Club? Adrian Gaston says, one day when I get a chance, I need to go see Mr. Thomas for an operating session, since I'm in the area that he models in the same state of Georgia.
Yes. Yeah. Basically what I do is, people contact me, and then, it's not a wide open invitation, but I try to work something out, get to know people first, because I'm inviting them into my house. So, I try to be a little bit careful and stuff, but I've had a couple of guys from Germany contacted me, and they were here in the States doing a rail fanning trip. And, I had talked to the guy online and stuff, and they came down here and they did an operating session, and it was great. And, they spoke just enough English, and it worked out perfect. And I've had other guys from other places, see the layout and want to come, and, again, just contact me through my website or whatever, and we'll see if we can work something out. It's been a little hard with the current situation, having to isolate, but eventually that'll fade, and we can get back to doing some operating sessions and stuff.
Do you have regular guys in the community to which you live in that come over?
There's a few guys that have operated here, we'll say 4 or 5 times, but for the most part, I've got a wide range of people that have, been here and operated on the layout. Again, I belong to a model railroad club, which is in Mineral Bluff, which is, it's about an hour away from here. And the interesting thing with that club is that they are modeling the same line that I'm modeling, but they're modeling it back in the 1950s. So when the L&N was on the line, and they have a little area for Tate, and they have Marietta, and they have the same thing. They just don't do it in this in the same detail that I do. The towns, it's more of a pass through. There's some switching and stuff, but again, it's more moving trains from Marietta up to Etowah, which is where this line eventually tied in back in the day.
Dale,
the Georgia right now ends the state line.
Oh, Dale Baker wants to know. He says, "Are you part of the OpSig group?"
No, actually, I'm not. I'm not on the OpSig.
Do you get their magazine?
No.
Oh,
No, I'm an NMRA member, but I'm not on the. I haven't joined up with the OpSig. The problem was that there really wasn't too many people in this area that did operations, and there's a few layouts here that I go and operate on. A couple of them are NMRA members and stuff, but the problem is, again, if they're doing operating session at night, starting at 9 o'clock, and they finish at 11, I've got a 2.5 to 3 hour drive back home, which makes it a little tough, driving back from Atlanta at, midnight and getting home at, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then again, the same token, if they do a morning operating session and they want to start at, 9 o'clock, I've got to get up here at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get down there, and again, hope that I don't hit traffic or whatever. One accident can kill the travel.
Yeah. We love model railroading, but only so much.
Yeah.
There's only certain limits that we are willing to do.
Yeah.
Jerry's in the house. Hey, Jerry. Sorry I didn't get to you earlier, buddy. Welcome. Do you do any live streams of your op sessions, Tom? Human City Junction wants to know.
Yeah, I did one. I guess it was back when the pandemic first started. I want to say it was March or April or something like that. I did a live stream. You can find the live stream on my YouTube channel. If you go back a couple of episodes, if you will, there was a live stream. It went about an hour and a half. And again, I lost connection about 10 minutes into it. On the YouTube one, you don't see that dead 5 minutes that I was trying to reconnect to the internet, but it worked. I could probably, I might do another one here sometime soon. But again, the problem is I don't want to start one and then lose the internet connection, and then you guys, start throwing tomatoes at the screen because I've lost the connection.
Stuff happens, What are you gonna do? It happens,
Yeah.
Now your YouTube channel is Thomas
Klamosky.
Klamosky, and your website is www.Klamosky.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. ThomasKlamosky.com, and the YouTube is the same thing. Put in Thomas Klamosky in the search bar, and it should come up. I've actually kind of taken over. If you type in Georgia Northeastern, you're going to get all my videos because they're all titled something with Georgia Northeastern in there. So that'll get you to my channel if you can't figure out how to spell the name. But it's again, the easiest thing is just go on the website. I got my videos. Click on the video tab, and then you can see all the videos there. All the videos are linked on my website. And then also don't overlook the how-to section, because there's a couple of how-to videos where I show how I do the grass. I use Hiki wild fiber grass, the grass mats, and then stretch them out and glue them down, and it saves you from having to buy a static grass applicator, and it looks really good because it's real nice dense grass. So I go through the steps on how to model a tree covered hill is the name of the video. And it's gotten a lot of views. I'm shocked as to how many views are on that one video. And then I also show how to model the gate and an operating overhead door and all that other stuff. So you can find that on the
I think the overhead door and the gate were like one of my favorite videos.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. You know, my wife thinks I'm crazy, but we had Legos left over from when the kids were little, and we're still storing them. So maybe one day, if we ever have grandkids, well, they won't be able to put the Legos back together because I stole some of the parts.
There you go.
But
Brandon-
anyway, I found some components that would work. I got an idea. My wife's just shaking her head, going, "You're crazy, you're crazy." And I figured out a way to link it all up. And again, it's real simple. I like to try to keep things simple. That's the other thing with my layout is I don't have any switch machines. They're the micro engineering switches, so they got that little V spring in there. So I just throw the points with my finger. I have frog juicers. So there's no no electrical, components, for throwing the switch. There's no signals. There's no signals on the Georgia Northeastern. So there's no signals on my layout either. So it's real simple. They use what they call the verbal block rules, which again is just kind of you sign out for the block. You got the block until you sign back in. And again, that's what I use based on the prototype. So I try to mimic the prototype operations, and that's what I've done, with the layout. Of course, everything's compressed and stuff, but again, it's fun, and most of the seem.
Yeah, Grain Express says he really loves you. He really loved your interview on A Modeler's Life. That's how he found you.
Right.
Ralph Renzetti says, I need to know, how did you like your interview with Lionel on A Modeler's Life?
Oh, Lionel's fun. He's a great guy. I enjoyed talking to Lionel. I met him. Actually, they had and then there was a convention, I believe it was the Southeast Region Convention in Chattanooga. Just before that, they had the Scale Trains had a little special where you could, meet there. You got to ride the Hiawassee Loop, which was what I always wanted to do. That was a real treat, which is the northern end of this line that I model. But I don't model it because I stop at the here in Georgia, but the line continues up, goes around the Hiawassee Loop, which is where it goes around the mountain and back over itself, which is really neat. So I got to ride that, and Lionel was there, and again I got to meet him in person. I talked to him and stuff. Again, it was fun. I enjoyed Lionel. I enjoyed also Mr. Bill here. It's great.
I'm not at the same level. At the pay scale that Lionel's at, he's on pay scale. He does it really well, and he does it with a great sense of humor. Hats off.
Well, I guess I'm famous on his podcast because I was the one that said marginally adequate for the first time. So now he's been using that every when he was doing his questions or whatever. And I told him, well, I was shooting for marginally adequate. And he says, oh, like our podcast is marginally. So then he just picked it up, and so now it's part of their whole deal, and everything is marginally adequate. So I guess I'm famous for coming up with that term, which is funny because I came up with that term back when I was a captain at the fire station. I had to do evaluations of my firefighters, and this one guy kept bugging me about, when are you going to do my evaluation? Am I going to be as good as this? Am I going to get, what are you going to give me? What do you give me? I said, I'm going to give you marginally adequate. So that set him up.
Not the kind of guy you want following you into a burning building.
Yeah, I told him. I said, you are marginally adequate. And of course, I evaluated him better than that. But it was just to get him off my back for a while because he was bugging me.
Now, in your other life, you served as a firefighter for the Miami Fire Department, the city of Miami, Florida. For how long were you?
Almost 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah. I started off as a firefighter and worked my way up the ranks. Was a lieutenant on an engine, went to training, did some driver training for a few years, went back out to the floor. I worked at a station that was just a couple of blocks from the old Orange Bowl. I was a captain at the fire station there, and on an engine company, and was in charge of the fire station that had an EMS unit and that kind of stuff. And then last couple of years, I finished off at our support services as kind of overseer of our repairs and fire apparatus and specifying fire trucks and that kind of stuff. So I got to do a lot of stuff. As I had talked to you earlier, Bill, I was also on our urban search and rescue team, which is Florida Task Force 2. So I responded to a bunch of hurricanes and went to Katrina, went to Gulfport, Mississippi for that, and also was part of the 9/11 response. Our team responded to Ground Zero, and we were up working the site for about 10 days. So again, that was that was an honor to be there. I felt like we were helping and doing our part. Everybody wanted to get up there and help, and I was actually able to do that, and I was very honored to be able to do that. We slept in the Javits Center and worked 12-hour shifts, which I worked the day shift, which meant we worked 14 hours because the night shift couldn't get there in time to relieve us. They were lagging behind. They were always late to come and relieve us. But again, it was very I guess there's really no words. I mean, I can't I can't put words to it. I mean, just
Understandable.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much for your service.
Yeah. And I'm still working as a firefighter now. I'm a volunteer firefighter here in our county. So I respond, and it's a different world. I mean, I go to the station, I'm the only one. I get on the truck, I'm the only one. I drive to the fire, I'm still the only one. I get to pull the hose, go back, pump, do this. I'm still the only one there. And then other guys show up in their cars. And I mean, it's just a different world. I mean, the guys and girls here do a fantastic job. I mean, the other thing is there's a lot of hills around here, which I didn't have to deal with in Miami. And some of these driveways are straight up and, water's limited. And I mean, lots of challenges. So again, I'm honored to be able to, help them out here. And I just, do the best I can. And again, they've been doing a good job.
John 2618 says that you worked with Tom worked with my father's childhood best friend. LOL, small world.
Yes, yeah, I got to John's a great guy. I went and actually got to see and operate his layout, and that was real fun. And it turns out that his dad knew the fire chief, and yeah, I know all these people. So again, it's funny how you meet all these different people. And again, met John through the internet, through the YouTube and all that other stuff. And I've met so many great people. An interesting story: I met the gentleman that designed the prototype switch list for the Georgia Northeastern. He saw my YouTube channel, and then so he contacted me and came over here, and he gave me some pointers on changing some things. And he's the one that does that, goes around to all these different, short lines and sets up their switch list for them, does the whole computer program. So, I mean, again, I met him through a YouTube video, and he contacted me, and I met, several other people. So that's why I like doing stuff online. And, I like, putting out the operations videos. That's kind of my thing. I've got the little conductor guy that's famous. He's in all my videos. But I like to do that so that people can kind of see what a real conductor would be doing, where they would be working, and the steps that they would have to take. And again, if you slow down a little bit and just replicate some of the things that happen on the prototype, it makes a small layout operate like a much larger one.
As someone smarter than me said, you're part of the national. So you're a small component, but you're doing something really big. So when you operate it in a prototypical way, it seems to bring life to the railroad. It seems to bring to the model.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's a fine line. I mean, I don't have guys sit there for 10 minutes while they're doing a brake test. I mean, that's a little extreme. Yeah. But you can just verbalize it and say, yeah, we're doing the brake test. Okay. Because I mean, I've done a brake test. I've walked 10 passenger car lengths up and 10 passenger car lengths back to do the brake test, and it takes a long time. And the same thing, if you're, you got a 30 or 40 car freight train, it's going to take forever to go and walk them on, walk them off, do all that other stuff. But again, you can just kind of replicate it and say, okay, we're doing a brake test. And when you come in, one of the other things that guys don't do a lot of is when you come in to pick up a car, you really need to do a car inspection, because once you connect to the car, it's yours. And if it's damaged, they're going to say you did it. That's what they tell me on the prototype. So what you want to do is come up, you stop a little short and just say, okay, I'm doing a car inspection. You walk around and you go, oh, well, this one, we can't pick it up because, there's a piece of equipment still not right, or something's wrong with it. So we need to call the car department to come out and fix it or whatever. You don't have to do that, but just, slow down a little bit, stop, do a safety stop one car length before. Conductor, we get off, he'd go check the car. All right, we look good. Go ahead, bring it up, connect up, do your connections, give it a few seconds, make sure you got a good joint. Just like they do on the proto. Okay, we got it. Okay. And when you set a car out, the same thing. Set it out, pause for a few seconds, because they need to do what they call a securement test. where they make sure the brakes are holding, because you don't want to cut away from the car and have the car roll down the hill and into the fence and, down into the next, industry or something.
Yeah, John Arthur says, I think I learned this from Eric, but a brake test has taken on a new meaning of double checking your way bills.
Mm-hmm.
Checking your thing. One of the things that when I worked for the transit, when you went to the layup track to get your train, somebody would be coming off, and one of the things the instructors used to drill into your head, if the guy getting off the train is the train you're getting on, and he happens to be your brother, and he says to you, your physical sibling, he's your brother, and he says to you, this train is all right, take it, don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't trust it. Because once you put your handles in and you charge it up, the train belongs to you.
Right.
It happened to me one night when I got on. A guy got off who I knew very well, socialized with him, hung out with him, had birthday parties with his kids. He got off the train and he said, it's all good. You're good, Bill. You just got to pop the brakes and you're good to go. And I said, okay. I got on the train. I didn't charge it up. I walked through the train. I got to the end. And what did I happen to find on the ground on the last car? The coupler. The coupler. The actual knuckle coupler on the ground. And the bumping block was pushed back 10 feet.
Uh-huh.
So I got to the
no idea
point,
how that happened.
called up and said, we got a situation here. They came down, they looked at it, and they said, did you charge it up? I said, no. Then they called him out, and he started doing the stuttering and muttering.
Yes.
And then later on, he came and he got really pissed off at me, and he was like, why'd you do that? I said, why did I do what are you talking about? You were going to hang that on me, bro?
Take the blame, yeah.
Come on. Needless to say, I never got a Christmas card from that guy again.
Yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Tom, let me ask you two questions. What's the worst thing you hate about doing your model railroading?
Worst thing, probably soldering those little teeny tiny wires to the decoders and trying to do ditch lights and all that other stuff. And just, I can't, those guys that do in scale, a lot of respect for them. I can't see that well anymore. I've got, I got glasses. Everything I got to do is with an OptiVisor. But trying to solder those little tiny wires and doing that kind of stuff, that's not enjoyment for me. I do it because I have to, and I want to upgrade the decoder. I want to put ditch lights in. I want to do that kind of stuff. So I do it, but that's not the fun part.
Eric Hall, IMRR com, count front to back, then back to front, and make sure you have all the cards before you leave. Do not show up at the next stop with shot cards.
Yes.
That I have to say that happened to me. Well, 8 car in real life in the transit, I was supposed to take 8 cars out, and it was on the line that it was going. It only could fit 8 cars. Subway cars, and I took 10 out.
Okay.
That could ruin a day, but
yes.
What's the best thing you like about model railroading?
Operations. Yeah, that's to me when the layout comes to life is operating it and doing the switching and I like the challenge. I try to do things as efficiently as possible. Not doing extra moves and that kind of stuff. And again, it's a mental chess game, I guess. Some people have said that. It's, I like the challenge of trying to figure out to do this in the least number of moves or the most efficiently. And what I've also learned is that sometimes the most efficient way isn't the safest way, isn't necessarily the best way. I've talked to a prototype engineer that's a retired good friend of mine. And he says, as long as you go home at the end of the day and you got, the cars ended up where they're supposed to be, nobody got hurt, and we all got a job to come back tomorrow, we're good. He says, the other line he gave was a good plan now is better than an excellent plan after we've been messing around for 5 hours trying to figure it out. So we'll go with the good plan and get it over and done with. And again, sometimes some of the things are done for convenience of the crew. They'll do it so that the guy doesn't have to walk. It might have been more efficient to do it this way, but the guy didn't want to have to walk 10 cars. So they'll do it a different way so that he can stay on the ground in one spot. And then they can, again, when you're out there walking, 10, 12 hours a day back.
Over ballast, over rocky terrain,
Yes.
and everything
Yes.
like that. Most trainmen usually get what's that, bone spurs on their heels.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause they're walking over.
That's one thing. Model railroaders don't think about that, but you know, it's always sunny and 72 degrees on my layout. But these guys that are out there working at night in the rain and the snow and the, you know, oh, it's miserable. And yeah, they you know, and the engineer sitting in the cab in a nice toasty cab going, hurry up, you know, I need to go on back home. And the poor conductor's out there just working and walking. And, you know, I mean, freezing cold, blazing hot. I mean, you know, at night, tripping over stuff you can't see, you know, very dangerous. I have a lot of respect to these guys that work on the railroad. I mean, as a job, but it's a tough job. I mean, I just got a small taste of it working on the Blue Ridge Scenic, and I got a, you know, completely different level of respect. I mean, understanding what these guys go through to, you know, to work the job every day, and the engineers and everything. Everybody thinks, you know, kind of like firemen. You know, we sit around all the time playing cards and that kind of stuff. You don't see the real fires. You know, you watch these TV fires and it's all nice and clear, and the guy runs in and grabs the baby and runs out and stuff, and that's not how it works. You know, basically take your hand, put it over your eyes. You can't see anything. It's hot. You're tripping over everything. You know, stuff's falling on you. You're getting hung up. You know, you're staggering around, crawling around, it's super hot. You're hitting the floor. You know, that's the real life of a firefighter, you know, and then other times, you know, you never know what you're going to get. So, you know, you go from one call to the next. You know, 1 minute you're doing a medical call, then you're running a fire call, and then you're doing all kinds of stuff. You know, so, you know, people don't understand, you know, how busy it can be on the fire department. And, you know, we're not all just around playing cards all the time. That's not the real job of a firefighter. That's maybe what you see on TV. A good story was I was a lieutenant, and a new rookie came out of the fire academy. So this was his first day on the job, and we had a dumpster fire, which is one of those big industrial dumpsters that was open. I mean, it's, you know, like the size of, you know, 20 feet long, you know, 8 feet wide or whatever. And it's full of just junk and trash and this stuff. So we got to get in there, and we're raking it and pulling the stuff apart. And cockroaches are running up our pants and going up in our bunker gear. And I mean, the rats and just all this other stuff. And I turned to the guy and said, this isn't like, you know, what you saw on TV, right? He's like, oh no, this is where, you know, you don't understand, you know, what the firefighters go through and what they do unless you do the job. Same thing with like being on the railroad, you know.
My cousin, he's retired. He's a retired lieutenant from the FDNY. But on his first day as a probie, he went to a fire and he was assigned, you know, senior man was with him, and the senior man was, you know, telling him, just stick with me, stay close to me, do as I say, and you'll be all right. So they go to a fire in an apartment house. And the guy turns to my cousin, Tommy, and he goes, Tommy Sturgis was his name. Is his name still? And he told him to break the windows in the house. I think I told you this.
Mm-hmm.
And he went and he broke the windows. And it was a mattress fire. So they threw the mattress out the window into the courtyard. They doused it and everything. Cousin Tommy comes back and he's all happy and proud, and the captain's looking at him. He goes, "You did a fine job. You took all those windows out." But thank you, sir. Thank you. And he goes, "Unfortunately, it was the wrong house."
Yeah.
Yeah. So he broke all the windows in the wrong house, and you know, and for years he retired after 33, 34 years. He still, to this day, I've been with him, you know, at functions. You know, people will come up to me and they'll go, "Is this your cousin?" I said, "Yeah, did you know that?" And I said, "Broke the windows." Yeah.
Yeah, we had something similar to that happen. You know, they always said, try before you pry. You always try the door before you pry it open. Well, this crew went in and they just busted the door down, broke out the bottom panel, crawled through the door, everything. Went over later, they turned that knob and the door opened. Yeah, They didn't have to break the door down. They could have just turned the knob; it would have opened.
Yeah. Well, to recap, Michael Lambertini wants to know: do you use signal systems? No, nope. Signal systems on the Georgia Northeastern Railroad. No. Nobody lost a leg then you're good. You're absolutely right. Right. Gas. As long as you can go home, that's it. Let's see what else. Anybody? Tom, let's see. Indian Head Valley. Hey, Wilma. Ain't that the truth, John Arthur? He gets to see DCC, but not the sounds like we have now. Yeah, John Arthur says, I wish my grandfather could see what we have in HO scale. True.
Yeah.
True. Seaboard Central. Tom runs his layout like the prototype, using prototype practices and at slower speeds, which in turn makes his layout seem a lot larger than it actually is. Yes, I've been on Joe Desmond's N scale Conrail layout, and it's an N scale, but it's small. But he runs it the same way as you do, prototypically, and it looks like it feels like it's much bigger.
Yes.
Randall Ellis says, I'm just barely old enough to remember pre-DCC days, and it's incredible how far this hobby has advanced in a short time. Seaboard Central, Adrian Gatson says, Seaboard Central is another nice run layout.
Yeah, that's Tim Garland. That's my friend Tim Garland. He's got the Seaboard Central. He's about 3 hours away from me, down towards Atlanta. Again, super layout. Check out his YouTube channel if you haven't done it already. The other one to go see is John 2618. Go check out John Farrington's channel.
Yes, we had John. John was on our show. John, I interviewed John.
I think most people have found his channel by now, but if not, definitely go over there and check out John's channel and Tim's channel there on Seaboard Central.
I have to say something at this time. I had John Farrington on. I had Sean Croteau on. I hope you're pronouncing your name right, Sean. And I had John Arthur on. 3 young modelers on, and each one that I called, each said the same thing to me. Why are you contacting me? Why do you want me on your show? I am not of that caliber that you have on, that I feel I should be on your show, which I thought was a very nice, humbling spirit that they had. But I explained to them that I've watched your videos. They're very good. John Arthur, John Farrington, and Sean. And, and today I was watching John Arthur video on doing, he was putting wheel sets in gondola, and he was previewing a set that he was building. And I have to say, Tom, that these 3 young guys underestimate their ability to what they can do and what they are doing. They're having fun. Like I say to everybody, like I'm sure you did to the new guys that came on your job as they did on my job. Nobody taught you how to be, when you were a kid, nobody taught you how to be a firefighter. No one taught you how to be a subway motorman. No one taught you how to be a modeler. It's just something that you wanted to do. It was something that you felt. And these guys, and including Heath from Human City Junction, though he works in he has a small apartment with his girlfriend, but he works in a small thing. He produces really good stuff. And these 3 guys, Sean, John Farrington, John Arthur, and Heath, they really put forth great effort. And these are the young guys. I mean, they're in their 30s and they're young guys, and they're doing a lot of good stuff. So if you get a chance, check their videos out. They're really doing good stuff, and they're really bringing a lot of enthusiasm back into the hobby. Because sometimes us old curmudgeons, we just get like, oh yeah, I've done that before. And there's another guy. What's that? Oh, John said, speak for yourself. Okay, for me as the old curmudgeon. These guys have been doing. These guys are bringing new, fresh blood in, and they're doing some really good stuff.
Doing great.
I like you said, you saw John Farrington's up close and personal, and you saw what he. I see his stuff. Farrington. What is the food place? The thing with the letters and
frozen foods. Yeah, I think it's Fiaro or something like that. Frozen foods.
Yeah. I see the trucks on the expressway, and I go, I know a guy that models that. And my wife looked at me and she goes, and how important is that to the world in itself? I said, not really much, but I just know the guy who models that, so that counts for something. But these guys really are, they're good guys, and they're really doing really good work. So hats off to them, and we hope to have those guys back on really soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't need, a lot of guys think, unless I have a 20 by 20 room, I can't do what I want to do. I mean, this layout is more than enough for me. I actually, if I was to rebuild it again, I might not even put the peninsula in. I found that I could just, just doing the switching right there, less is more. You just take your time, enjoy the switching operation and stuff. That's all
Thank
you
you,
can do.
Tom. That's what I've been saying. If I took this peninsula that's right in front of me and I just had these two sides here, I'd be happier than a clam. And I don't know how happy clams get, but
Yeah. Sometimes, people, underestimate how much work it takes to, build a large layout, maintain it, do all the wiring. I mean, it's you go down there and you look, and it's like, oh my God, I've got, several hundred feet of track still to lay. And, sometimes it's just not worth it. And then you got problems, you got troubleshooting here. It's real easy to clean. It's real easy to take care of. Maintenance is not that bad. I can do the details. I like doing detailing. So if you really like detailing, you like slow speed switching operations, you really don't need that big of a layout. And again, how long do you want your operating session to last? I mean, some guys, I think the average, most people say, an hour, a couple hours, 3 hours. There's some guys like to do marathon sessions. Great. But I found most people by the second hour, they're done. I had a couple of guys down here and they did the one switch job there in Marietta. And they said, I haven't thought that much in a long time. I need to go home and take a nap. They had enough. I mean, it was an hour. I'm like, fine. I don't have to run all 3 jobs. I can just run one job. If in the middle of the switch job, your phone rings and you got to go home, it's not a problem. Just shut it down. We'll leave it. If you only got a few minutes to come here, that's fine. So again, there's a lot of benefits to having a small layout, and I think unfortunately in the hobby, sometimes the people with the smaller layouts are looked down upon. That it's it's only so it's only this size. It's only they minimize it. No, you can have a lot of fun. I mean, John Farrington's layout is perfect. It's a nice little switching layout. He's finding out he's got a lot of operations there, and again, it's in a nice small space. He's still got part of the room to do his workbench stuff, and again, it's what works for you. There's not a one size fits all. That's the thing I guess I'm trying to say.
Bigger is not necessarily better.
Correct.
Thornton says, my layout is quite small and I'll need years to get into the detail I want. Plenty of ops in a small area too.
And again, it's a journey. It's not a race. Enjoy the journey, learn as you go. And since I started this layout, as you build the layout, your skills improve. The first build that you put together, you scratch build, may not be that great, but the next one you do, you get better, you learn techniques, you get better and you get better. Well, by the time you get around to the end of the layout, you can go back and start at the first one if you don't like the way it came out.
Yes, so, exactly right. Exactly.
Nobody's born to be a master model railroader or whatever. You got to learn the skills and you got to take the time, and and that's the thing. And that's one of the things I'm getting out of the NMRA is I'm doing things that I wouldn't normally like to do. I'm trying to achieve different certificates, so it's pushing me to do things that I normally wouldn't do, like dispatching. I'm not that's not my thing. I don't like dispatch. I'd rather work the yard. But to get the certificate, I got to dispatch.
In order to be a good dispatcher, you have to have a cigar and a cup of coffee with a pot brewing all the time.
That's right. So
historical railroad
encouragement. Just don't be afraid to try things. Again, not everything I started off with came out perfect on the first attempt. Sometimes it took 2 or 3 attempts to do. What you see here wasn't necessarily the first attempt.
No, absolutely correct. I agree with you. It's not something that that you learn overnight quickly. And the best part is like when you do something that you've achieved and you see it and you do it and you're saying to yourself, wow, I wonder if that's really the way it should. And you see somebody that you look up to on a YouTube video that did it like right after you did it. And you're like, wait, he did what I did? Well, that means I must be on the right track. So, today John Arthur did the thing with the wheel sets in his gondola, and I wrote on his comment page, hey, just giving you a heads up, I'm stealing that idea. Mm-hmm. I'm taking that and I'm going to apply it to my railroad. He was like, best compliment you could have given me.
Well, there's a couple of people that have contacted me, and I gave them information on how to make the operating overhead door or the fence gates and stuff. So that now that it's out there, I'm glad to share it. I mean, it's not I just happen to come up with something, and if everybody else likes it and wants to adapt it, make it yours, great.
Yeah. Yep. Tom Holly says the only qualifications to railroading are to be able to drink coffee, lie, count backwards from 10. I have to concur with that. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Tom is dead on.
He is. I've been in those situations. One thing I've always said is that the transit authority has taught me to be a good, I'm not going to say liar, but fabricator of the truth. It depends. It depends on the question that's being asked.
Right.
So it's a compliment when someone, Indian Head Valley Railroad says it's a compliment when someone sees your layout and says it looks bigger on YouTube. Everything looks bigger on YouTube.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Eric says, I went from O scale to N scale small, but stopped before going to Z scale really small.
Yeah.
Adrian Gaston says, we can get more details and complexity. Small. Tom Holly says, small is achievable. And Scott says, I have friends with larger layouts, and that's where I get my big layout fits.
Yeah. Well, if you belong to a club, that's what I do. I have the large layout at the club, and then I come home to the small layout. So I've got the best of both, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome.
It's been a real blast having you and talking railroading and everything that's going on with that. And really, thank you again for your service with the Miami Fire Department and with the volunteer. I'm sure they got a good seasoned man over there. They look to you for advice and leadership. So thank you for that. And thanks for being on the show. It really...
You're welcome. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, having me on.
No, not a problem. Just so you guys a heads up, on this Saturday, July 25th, I think we are, right? July 25th, we're going to have the Railroad Empires, How We Build Them. They're going to be doing ground cover on this. I think this is the 8th episode. We have the Fabulous Four, Andy, Tim, Lloyd, and Robert, and they'll be on, and you guys can watch them. It's Railroad Empires, How We Build Them. They're doing a step-by-step on each of their layouts, and check out their layouts. Are pretty exquisite, I think. They're pretty nice layouts. And they're going to be doing things on ground cover. And then on July 30th, we're going to have Johnny's Train Talk show. That will be Thursday night, and all the shows are scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can come on Johnny's Train Talk show just as Tom and I have been chatting. If you have a webcam and an internet, you can come on and be a part of the Johnny's Train Talk show. If you have something you want to bring in brag, please do. Please do. If you have a question about model railroading, come along and ask. We got some of the best model railroaders out there on the show. We got Ralph the Mudfather Renzetti, Andy Crawford, Tim Wayman, Lloyd, guys who are pretty experienced, and they'd be more than happy to help you. And if they don't know, we'll find out for you. But they're on Johnny's Train Talk show. So come on down to the general store, pull up a chair, sit around, pull a soda pop out of the what do you call it, freezer there, and enjoy it. Yeah, that was a hard word to say there. Oh, and my apologies to Sir Rod Stewart. We were supposed to have him on tonight. But we ran out of time, Mr. Stewart. I'm so very, very sorry. Hopefully we can get you on in the next show. And the next show will be August 5th. We'll have Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman, folks, is going to be on August 5th. I'm looking forward to speaking to Dustin Hoffman. I've always liked his work. So we'll have him on. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, because if you didn't, we'd be talking to dead air. So you guys have a safe night. Be safe, be well, but most of all, be blessed. And we'll see you guys on the radio.